Hello everyone, I am Mrs. Ben Ines, and I will be doing a number of exercises and fun activities with you that are meant to make you revise the program that you have carried on in the school during the 2 terms, term 1 and term 2. I have prepared a lot of activities, fun activities, but I didn't do that alone. I did it with the help of our ELT inspector, Mrs. Ilham bin Sulaiman Mansour, to whom we owe too much credit. So, are you excited? Shall we start? Let's go. Now, normally, before I start showing to you that, I need to remind you of the safety rules. You know, we are suffering from a nasty pandemic all around the world, so we have to take the needed procedures in order to be safe from this pandemic. So please don't forget to wear a face mask, like it is mentioned here in the picture, and use the hand sanitizer. And then don't forget to disinfect your workplace because, you know, especially in the exam day, don't forget to disinfect that place to not get infected. Now, we need also to remember to respect the physical distancing, always 1 meter from each other. And then please avoid gatherings. I know you are missing each other, but you shouldn't be together in huge numbers. Then don't forget to avoid touching your face. Great. So here we have 3 words: cousin, grandfather, and father. Cousin, grandfather, and father. Now find out, please, what is common between these 3 words. Can you try? It's easy. Normally, those 3 words are connected to family because they are 3 family members. So here we have, So we'll start with the review session number 1. And the best way to start this session is with this wonderful proverb. As you can see in here, it is mentioned in time of test, family is best. Now, I guess you are considering that because of the difficult conditions we have been living this period because of the coronavirus, and we didn't find other people except our families to be protected and to feel safe in our houses, in our homes, if you want. So here, our module is going to be about family life, as you can see in here, okay? So in this module, we are going to focus on 3 main topics. The first one would be about family relationships, the connections between the families. Then, of course, if we have relationships, we must have conflicts. So we'll have family conflicts. We'll talk about that too. The last one is family safety. How can my family make me feel safe? How can my family protect me? All those topics will be dealt with in this first module, family life. Now, in this module, our focus should be on language and the reading comprehension. So we're not going to tackle the 3 parts, language, reading, and writing. We'll be simply talking about language and reading comprehension in this session. Now, let's start with the language. Now, if I say language, it means I will be dealing with vocabulary and I will be dealing with grammar. Now, if I say vocabulary, please, in your books, you have a number of pages that are dealing with vocabulary items. After each module in the student's book, you have a word, you have actually a page called word list where you can revise the targeted vocabulary items that you have in each module. So in module number 1, you will have that in page number 34 as it is mentioned in the first table. As for grammar, you also have the same thing, but it is not in the student's book, it is in the activity book. And in this module in particular, you have that from page number 146 until page 148. Okay, now, so these, please remember that if you want to revise, if you want to carry on an organized revision, you need to go back to your book as well as the copy book. Now, let's start with the revision of the language part. So number 1 would be this one. So we need to complete the table with the needed forms. Let's start the first table. Now, if you can see here the word life. Who doesn't know the meaning of life? Life, the opposite of death. Now, this is the noun. If I say life, so the verb must be here. I would say with the adjective first, which is alive, and then the verb must be live, the verb to live. So remember, live, I, alive, I. However, the verb, it is to live, I, if, okay? Now let's move on. In here you have the verb, which is the verb to agree. Can you see that? So we have the verb now, so we have to provide the noun and the adjective. Let's start with the noun. So the noun from the verb to agree is agreement. And the adjective from that is agreed. So we say something is agreed on. Now let's move on to the next word, which is relation. Our verb from the noun relation is the verb to relate. It is related to something. We relate to something. So that is the verb. And here it's the adjective. We say something is related to something or to somebody. Now we'll move on to the next noun. It is support, and that is the equivalent of help. So the verb from support is the same. It doesn't change in the two sides. So we have the noun support and the verb to support somebody. It's like exactly help. We say I give some help and I help somebody, which is also the verb. The adjective from that is supportive. Now in help you have the adjective as helpful. However, here in supportive you have the adjective supportive, if at the end. Now we'll move to the word behavioral. Normally this is a word that should normally be a little bit complicated for you, but it's okay. I will just explain the meaning of behave. If I behave, that means I will do something in the right way. I will be acting in the appropriate way. So that's why in the classroom sometimes your teacher will say to you, behave, behave. That means please respect the classroom, behave. You should act in the correct way. So the verb is to behave. The noun is behavior. It can be written in, if you want, it can be written in OUR, as you can see in here, or it can also be written in OR because it is the American way of writing it. So both ways are correct. You choose which one you want to write with. Now, we want to move on here to the adjective. The same thing for behavioral. If you choose the American way, so behavioral would be written like that, with simply one O. If you choose the British way of writing it, so we'll write it like OURAL. So that is the meaning of behavioral. Now, let's move on to the next verb, which is to obey. Now, this is the verb to obey. If I obey somebody, that means I will say yes to everything. Now, normally we are supposed to obey our parents. We are supposed to obey the people who are older than us. That is the meaning of obey. Now, the noun from the verb to obey, it is obedience. And the adjective must be obedient. Okay? So I will give my obedience. I will show my obedience so that I am obeying, I obey, and I am obedient. Okay? Now, the last adjective we are having in here is demanding. That means you ask too much from people. So the verb and the noun are the same. You have the noun demand, a demand, and you have the verb to demand something. So is that clear now with the word forms, with the different forms we have? So remember, in all the modules, we'll be focusing on this exercise, and we will give you the different word forms of the words that are found in each module. So let's move on to the next one. It's another fun exercise. So we'll be focusing on pictures. Can you see this one? Can you see picture number 1? Is that clear to you? So here in the picture, you have somebody who is like chained. He is handcuffed, if you can see that. So that person is handcuffed, but he's not in prison. He is not there. He is simply in front of the computer. He is in front of the PC. So he is simply addicted. Somebody is addicted. He cannot stop using something. The second picture, it is showing a little bit of magic. So this is easy, I guess. It is magical. As for the third one, it is showing the wallet. Here, it's a wallet where you can put some money, and it's empty. So here, this person is really miserable. It's coming from misery. That means unhappy because he doesn't have enough money. If you want, or he is poor enough. So these, again, are addicted, number 1, magical, number 2, and miserable, number 3. Okay? Let's move on to number 3 now. So here we are gonna focus on the different connections of words. Now, normally in each language we have a number of words that should be associated together. I will just give you an example. I will say I go, and you expect something after it. I will go, there is a space, then school. What do you say? I go to school. You don't say, for example, I go on school. You should say, I go to school. So go and to go together. So this is what you're going to do in this exercise. We'll simply match things that go together, that are meaningful. This is our table. So let's start with number 1, to break something. So it becomes broken. So what do I say? Break a roll? Break a family, break a meal? No, it's not that. We simply say to break rules. If I break rules, that means I will not respect them. I will not be behaving and respecting the rules. The second verb is to afford. If I afford something, it is strictly connected to money and the ability to be buying something. So that's why I have to say to afford buying something. Now, the next one, it's actually a different way. So I will say to spend. If I spend, it means I will spend money. For example, you spend money on buying your best video games. You spend money on your hobbies. You spend money on buying clothes. And this is for girls especially. Okay? So play, it's easy. So I will say, I play a role. So each one in the family, and you studied that, each one in the family should be playing a role. For example, the mother's role is normally supposed to be preparing food for the whole family. The role of the father is providing money for the whole family. You as a son or as a daughter, you are supposed to be helping in the house activities or something like that. So that is the meaning of playing a role in each family. Now we'll move to the other one, lenient. As you can see, lenient, it's an adjective. And lenient means flexible, permissive. It allows you to do things. I would say not saying no about something. So normally these are mothers. So lenient mothers or a lenient mother. That is the next answer. Then we have an extended family. You see, an extended family, nowadays we don't really have extended families, but in the past we used to have a lot of family members living together. So that's why we call that an extended family, a large family, not just a small one, a nuclear one. The last word is to cook. Of course, if I say I cook, that means I will prepare something to be eaten, food. So I cook a meal. So in this way, I will have all those words associated together. Okay? Now let's move on to another language exercise. And it's even more fun, this exercise. Now in this exercise, you are supposed to complete the missing words. You have just 1 or 2 letters given, and you are supposed to give the rest of the letters. Here you have a rule to respect, because here you have the number, you have the number of dashes is exactly the same like the number of missing letters. So it's exactly the same. You have to pay attention to that. Okay? So let's start reading this paragraph. So Mr. Dawkins is the school crossing guard. He explains the school's say. We are having 4 dashes missing, and then you have rules. Now, we started with those 2 slides at the beginning of this review session. It's normally an easy word to find. So here you have safety rules. We need to respect the safety rules. About, and then here you have the word streets. If you have the word streets, what do you do to streets? Do we cut them? Do we break them? I don't know, what do we do exactly? Normally, the only thing we can do actually in this paragraph to streets is simply crossing streets. I cross the street. So here you have crossing the street. Then now listen to Mr. Dawkins. Now walk in a single line, one behind the other. Look ahead and never turn around to talk to your friend. You should always stay inside the crosswalk lines on the street. Drivers know they. And here you have stop. When they should stop. When they have somebody or when they have some students walking inside. When cars are crossing and people are passing by, so normally the only activity cars should do or they would say more than should, it is actually must. It's an obligation. Otherwise, they will cause great damage. So they must stop when they see those students walking inside the crossing lines. Then we have everyone has to. Here, the orders. What do we do to orders? We simply obey orders. So here we saw that word in the above mentioned exercise. So we obey the orders. Anyone, or if anyone disobeys, he will put himself at, and you have 1, 2, 3. So it's something at, so at risk. That is a whole expression, and we say at risk. That is a whole expression that you have to pay attention to. Okay? So let's move on to the next exercise now. It is number 5, and we have to concentrate on providing the comparative of the following adjectives. Now we are done with language or vocabulary if you want, and here we're going to focus a little bit about grammar if you want. So let's have a table. So we're going to practice the direct rule, if you want, of making the comparative. If you just know in the comparative form, if you want to put an adjective in the comparative form, we have actually 2 things to do. If it's a short adjective, a small one, like tall, short, big, something like that, we simply add ER at the end. And here is the first example, taller. So you can see in red, you have ER because it's a short adjective. So we just say somebody is taller than somebody else, taller. Now the next one, it's affectionate. You can see it is not a short adjective. It is more than 1 or 2 syllables. It is a long adjective, so I cannot put ER at the end. That's why I shouldn't say, for example, affectionater. It's not possible. It's even heavy in saying that. So English people have opted for other solutions, and they have said we have to say more affectionate. So we say more affectionate. Now, let's move on to the next adjective. If you can see there, that is close. Okay? Now, is a close a short or long adjective? It's clear. It's almost like the first one, tall. So I have to say closer, closer. The other one, hazardous, it looks like the second one. So it's a long adjective. That's why I have to say more hazardous, more hazardous. The next one, it's also a long adjective. It's the same rule. I have to say more aggressive. Okay? Now let's concentrate on the 2 last ones. You have safe and clean. If you can see that, here there are 2 short adjectives. So I have to say safer, and another one, I have to say cleaner. Okay? So here, because it's ending in E, so I cannot add another E. So I will have safer. It's not possible. I will simply put the R. Okay, and here it's cleaner, so I can add simply the ER, and it's easy to make as a comparative rule if you want. Okay, so these are a few examples of comparative adjectives, and they are easy to do. I would say it's easy for you to do them. So let's have a look at this exercise. This is a multiple choice exercise where you have to choose here the correct answer. But how are you going to choose it? You will simply circle that as it is mentioned in the question. You will not underline, you will not cross, you will not tick, you will simply circle that. So in this type of exercise, I have first to focus on the context. So I have to read the whole paragraph, and then I will move on to what is before and after the parentheses to make out what I need in the space in particular. So let's start practicing that. Let's start reading the whole paragraph and then judge what we need before what we need in each space by reading what is before and after each parenthesis. Now let's move on to the first paragraph. I usually save £1.50 and spend the rest. I haven't counted it for a while, so I'm not sure how much, how often money is there at the moment. If I do a really big chore at home, I may, must, should get a bit extra. If there isn't something I desperately want, I'm not that bothered about pocket money, and I don't really think about getting a rise. It's not something I talk about with friends at school. We are more likely, less likely, never likely to be discussing football. Some students feel embarrassed, embarrassing, embarrassed. So it's important not to show off about what you've got. So this is the whole paragraph, and it's mentioned clear right from the first sentence that it is about pocket money and how should teenagers be dealing with pocket money. So it's about money as an overall idea. Now we'll concentrate on the things that we have, or on the spaces we have before the or each parenthesis. Now we'll focus on number one. So I'm not sure how often, how many, how much money. So do I say how many money? It's impossible because money is an uncountable noun, and I don't say many money. I would rather say something else. Do I say how often money? If I say how often money, it means how many times I do, if you want money, or I use money, and it's not this one. I'm not talking about that. I'm using money straight away after the parenthesis. So here I will ask about how much money is there at the moment. So here, if it's money, normally it must be how much money. Now, I will move to the next one. If I do a really big chore at home, it's a subject. So after that, I need a verb. The verb is right after the parenthesis. So here it's clear. What is between the verb and the subject is a modal. And here I have three modals that express three different things. I have may, I have must, and I have should. May is for possibility, must is for obligation, and should is for advice. Now in this situation, we have may, because it's possible for me to get a little bit extra if I do something nice to my mom. I clean the car, or I clean the garage, or I do something like this. We move. If there isn't something I desperately want, I'm not that bothered about pocket money, and I don't really think about getting a rise. It's not something I talk about with friends at school. We talk about ourselves. This is not something I discuss with somebody, my friends at school, because we are, that means we're the short form, more likely, less likely, never likely to be discussing football. So here at the beginning I said it is not something we talk about at school. If it's not, that means you will not discuss that. So we will discuss another thing. This must be, we're more likely to be discussing football. I'd rather discuss football than talk about money, which is different from one person to the other. Then some students feel, continuing the idea, I'm carrying on the idea, I'm explaining further. Some students feel, and here I have embarrassed, embarrassing, and embarrassed. So they feel, that's a feeling. So I need an adjective. I cannot be using something like embarrassing or embarrassed. These are two adjectives, so they may be possible. But I have the verb embarrass. It's eliminated because I already have the verb feel. So I am left with those two adjectives. Which one will go here? So some students feel. They feel. It means the action is happening on them, and they are people. So I have to say embarrassed. Some people are embarrassed. They are shy, a little bit shy, to not show off. So this is the exercise. So if ever you have such an exercise, always remember the strategies. Now, another famous exercise, and those who speak English all normally know, the fill-in-the-blanks exercise is the most famous language exercise ever. So we'll concentrate on that. So we are supposed to look at this box and fill in the words in their appropriate places. Now, before we move on into the answers, or giving the answers, I need to draw your attention to the strategies you have to concentrate on to do that exercise. Now, first, you have to read the whole paragraph for context, as usual. This is applied on each language exercise. I'm going to read it to understand where am I, what is going on, what am I talking about, what do I have to revise, what do I have to read, what am I talking about exactly. Then I will go to the box and try to classify the words, which one is an adjective, which one is a verb, which one is an adverb, so that sometimes the grammar can help me. For example, I will find out we are both, and here maybe I need an adjective. I will go back to the box and find out how many adjectives I have and which one will fit here depending on the meaning. So here I will get the use of grammar and meaning at the same time. So let's start with reading the paragraph as a whole. My sister and I always got on really well. Well, apart from that time when we, because we both like the same boy. But he went off with Heather Jenkins, so we came back close again, quite a space. Then we are both a space, and we like the same kind of music. When we were a gap, we went out on our bikes together. At school, we're good at different things. I'm good at languages, and Laura is good at maths. That's good though. It means that we can help each other with our homework. We can also share our space. Next year, I'm probably going to study in London, and she's going to Manchester, but I'm sure our space won't change. Even though we're physically apart, we will be morally chained forever. So here we are talking about a relationship between two family members, and it's clear here they are sisters. It's the first word, my sister and I. So it's us. We are two sisters. We're going to talk about our relationships in here. So that's why you're going to have the word relation in here after that. So here we are talking about family relationships, and especially the relationship between two sisters. Great. Now we'll move on to the types of words if you want. Number one, it's younger. It's a comparative adjective. We have been talking about the comparative in the previous exercise. Then fought, it's a verb in the past. Demanding adjective, we have seen that in the first exercise. Quickly, an adverb. Relationship, a noun. Easygoing, an adjective. Stationaries, it's a noun, a plural noun, and then older, it's also a comparative. So we'll try to put them in the appropriate place, but you have to pay attention that there are two extra words you would never ever use. It means two words you would not use at all. That's clear, okay? Also, I want to draw your attention that in each space you have to use just one word and just once. You don't use actually a word twice or three times. You simply use each word once. Then please, if you copy a word from here to here, pay attention that it is written correctly, because even if you misspell even one little letter, you will miss your half a mark, and that's why you have to pay attention to not make these kinds of, I would say, pitiful mistakes. Pay attention, please. Now let's start. My sister and I always got on well. Well, apart from that time when we, and here we, it's a subject, so you need normally a verb. I will go back. I don't have a verb in here except this one, which is fought, the past of fight. I say fight, fought, fought. So normally it must be there. So we got on well. It's okay, even the meaning is going on. We got on well except the time when we had some problems. That means when we fought, because we both like the same boy. You know, girls fight for those reasons. We move on. But he went off with Heather Jenkins. He left both of them, unfortunately for them. So we came back close again. Quite, after quite, you need normally an adverb. I will go back to this one. I simply have one adverb, and it is mentioned here quickly. It finishes up with ly. So you will have the word quickly. Now, let's move on. We are both, normally here we expect an adjective. I will go back. I have two comparative adjectives, and I have two adjectives, easygoing and demanding. Here, what do we need? We are both, and we like the same kind of music. If they like music, and they are actually having fun all the time, that means they are easygoing. They are cool, if you want. So we are both easygoing and we like the same kind of music. Then we were, it's in the past, we were when we were how? Now it's the present, but here we are talking about the past. When we were how? We're going to discover the situation. When we were older, it's not possible. If I just use the future here, I will say when we become older, when we will be older. But here we are talking about the past, so I have to use the adjective younger. The comparative form of young, which is younger. We went out on our bikes together. At school, we're good at different things. I'm good at languages, and Laura is good at maths. That's good, though. It means that we can help each other with our homework. We can also share our, after our, you are expected to have a noun. We'll move on. Here you have two nouns. A plural one, stationaries, and you will have relationship. So we can also share our what? What do you share? You can share your relationship? It's not possible here, but you share the materials you can use at school, which are called stationaries. Okay, now we'll move to the last one. So we'll move on. So next year, I'm probably going to study in London, and she's going to Manchester, but I'm sure we need another noun. So here, the only one which is left is our relationship want to change and will be all the time chained together. So you can see in here, you have to use all the contextual, grammatical clues to be doing such an exercise. Okay? Now, these were the language exercises. I hope that you enjoyed that and you benefited a lot. Remember the tips I have told you about. And now let's concentrate on the second part I have talked about at the beginning of this review session. And it's going to be about the reading comprehension. Now, what am I supposed to do in the reading comprehension? Actually, I'm supposed to read the text attentively, because if I read attentively, silently, I would say in a calm way, I would say in a concentrated way, I will be able to understand the text well and not waste time. The next thing I should do is answer the questions accordingly. It means I have to answer the questions in relation with the text. I need to know how to answer those questions to be able to get the full mark in the exam and in all the other reading exercises. So let's start with our text. So I have prepared to you a text. Now this is the text. I advise you whenever you have a text like that, before just getting into the details, concentrate on everything extra. Here, for example, you have, so you can have here the picture. Here you have the writer. Here you have, if you want, the title. So all of those things are extra things. So if you want, you can just look at them, because sometimes they give you ideas about the type of the text, who is the writer. They can help you with some visuals. They can help you a lot. So have a look at them, even if you don't understand the content. Sometimes you can find out few details from those extra things. Then get into the text, concentrate on the details, read it at least twice or even more, if you can, but don't forget to, I would say, be precise in time, because you may waste too much time and miss the next part. So let's start reading that. There is a conflict between young and old generations, a conflict where neither understands the other. The generation gap was assumed to be dead when seeing people in their 40s shopping in the same clothing stores as people in their 20s and listen to the same sort of music. It means there is no generation gap. This is new in human history, and it's kind of weird. Those who are a couple of years older are entering workplaces and colleges. And you know what? There is a generation gap, just not in the way that we imagined it. It's not about style. It's not about taste in music. It is about battles and power. Back in 2006, when the generation gap was believed to have disappeared, the word family violence came back to the scene. The young generations do no longer fight about trendy clothes or strange haircuts. They brought the debates about a range of human rights issues: freedom of speech, child's rights, the Me Too movement, equality between siblings, and many other rights. This new way of looking at the world has resulted in new age conflicts, whereas in the past, older people were blindly obeyed in all cases, whether they were right or wrong. Although it was believed that by listening to Rihanna and skateboarding to school, the generation gap could be defeated, it seems that generation conflicts will never end until the end of humanity. So this is a text by Bridget. Here you can find out it's Bridget Delaney, and she is a writer in the Guardian Australian magazine, and it's an up-to-date text. You can go back to the source, you will find this one. You can find actually the whole text. You can read and enjoy it. Okay, so these are the reading comprehension questions. Normally, we need to start with the general questions, and then we go into more details in the next questions. So normally in the first question, you have tick the correct answer. So I'm going to tick the correct answer, and if I say tick, it's tick, not cross, not circle, not underline, as I was telling you in the language exercise above. Now here the text is an article, a story, a letter. So pay attention. It is an article, a story, a letter. Let's start with the last choice in here. If it's a letter, normally you should have dear friend, dear Tom, dear mom, dear I don't know who. And then at the end you'll have yours, yours faithfully. So actually from the shape, from the form of the text, from the extra things, it is not a letter. So those things can help you. It's eliminated. Now then, it's a story. If it's a story, you have to pay attention to the use of the past. And here I want to go back to the text. Here we have there is, you have this is, and you have do no longer. So you have many will never. So you have the present and the future. So you have too much focus on the present and the future. So it can't be a story because a story must be told in the past. So this is not a story. Now, let's move on to the third choice. Here you have an article, and why we need to we tend to believe that this is an article, because if you have an article, you need normally to have a title or a headline. Then you need to have the source in here, also the writer of this one, and then you have facts. You have things in the present if you want. You have things talked about by a famous person, by a known person, that he or she can be discussing something, a topic. So the right answer is an article, as it is proved in the text. Now the second question is, the text is mainly about, and here remember the first question was about the type, the second one was about the content, the message. What is the meaning of this text? What is it talking about, this text? So is it about the end of generation gap, the return of generation gap, or the new form of generation gap? Now here, if I want to go back to the text again, if it's the end of the generation gap, it's not possible, because here we have generation conflicts will never end. So it's not the end, it's not possible. This is eliminated. Then I will have the return of generation gap. It's actually associated. It is never ended. It is never stopped. So how can it be coming back? So it is actually the new form of generation gap, which is the last choice. Okay? So let's get further into the details. Here you have another type of questions of the reading part. Are the following statements true or false? So here you have to write down true or false. Then you need to justify with the details from the text. Let's start with A. Both old and young generations buy clothes from the same shops. So they buy clothes from the same shops. That means they are shopping from the same places. We'll go back to the text. Okay, so here let's move to paragraph number 1 and look at this one. Okay, the generation gap was assumed to be dead when seeing people in their 40s shopping in the same clothing stores as people in their 20s. That means this is a true statement. So the justification would be, the generation gap was assumed to be dead when seeing people in their 40s shopping in the same clothing stores as people in their 20s. So this is the justification from the text. Second statement, in the past, young people had to obey the older people without discussion. Here you have to concentrate on the word without discussion. Obey without discussion. Go back to the text. All the time do this one. If you want to check your answers, if you want to justify, you have to go back to the... So here is the justification. We are back in paragraph number 3. And here you have this new way of looking at the word has resulted in new age conflicts, whereas in the past, older people were blindly obeyed in all cases, whether they were right or wrong. So this is the justification. That means in the past they were blindly, without discussion, they were blindly obeyed. Okay, so in the past, older people were blindly obeyed in all cases, whether they were right or wrong. This is the justification. Now let's move to the next one. 3, find out in the text a word meaning the same like, and here you will have that word in paragraph number 1. So normally in this type of questions you have to concentrate on 2 things. You need to find out the equivalent, that means something that has the same meaning, a word that has the same meaning, and also it must necessarily have the same form. It means if it's an adjective, the word you are looking for is an adjective. If it's a verb, the word you are looking for is a verb. And it's the same like that. So here our answer should be, we'll go back to the text again. So every now and then you need to go back to the text. I'm reminding you. So we are in paragraph number 1 here, and it's kind of weird. And it's kind of weird, which is bizarre. And here we'll move to the answer. Okay, weird, it's a synonym of strange and bizarre, if you want. Okay, let's move to 4. What does the underlined pronoun refer to? Now, this is a reference question. That means you need to find out a pronoun. It can be a word, another word, and you need to find out what does that word or pronoun refer to in the text. That means you need to go back right before that space, that underlined word, and try to find out what is it talking about, what is it related to exactly. This is what you're going to do right now in our text. Okay, so this is they, as you can see in here, that is they. So I need to go back into this sentence. This new way of looking at the word has resulted in new age conflicts, where in the past older people were blindly obeyed in all cases, whether they were right or wrong. So they, here it can't be about cases, it's about a person, so it must be about older people. Okay, so this is the answer, older people. So let's go to the last question, which is question number 5, and it is one of the questions that can be given to you in the exam. And now you can have this question to find out what a given sentence taken out from the text express. So in here you have this sentence. Although it was believed that by listening to Rihanna and skateboarding to school, the generation gap could be defeated, it seems that generation conflicts will never end until the end of humanity. So in here I need to concentrate on the word although here, if you can find out that word although. That word is a linker and it expresses actually contrast. So you have to write down your answer in this way. This sentence expresses contrast or opposition, if you want. You can use also that word, as it includes another, or as it includes, although, which is a linker of contrast or opposition. So this is how you should be answering that question. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson, and I'm promising to many other surprises in the next review sessions. Thank you and see you next time. Bye.